You.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Terrence. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to speak here. And I'm honored to be here for the first workshop. So I hope you guys get a lot out of it. Again, I am Tamika Franklin, and my business is Precision Franchise, and I am a franchise broker and consultant. So what that means is, and the term broker and consultant is used interchangeably in this industry is the same. Um, so what that means and what I do is I help you in finding the right business to basically navigate that space, navigate the franchise space. If you are looking and curious in owning another business and you want to own in the franchise industry, I teach you about the different opportunities that are out there. But more importantly, I try to get to understand you, your transferable skills, which is hence this presentation, your get to know, understand your background. It's more so of a discovery call for our consultation, where I then go back into inventory and come back with the options that's going to make most sense for you. So we find that alignment. So it basically stops you from going down that rabbit hole. So the consultations is not it's not at any cost to you. I am compensated by the franchise brands themselves. And I also help you, I help connect you with the right professionals that you're going to need along that journey, along with guiding you through the different range of franchises that they have. And I provide you with that ongoing support as well. So I want to start with the basic, which is just what is franchising. The reason why I always start with that is because there's a lot of assumptions in this industry as well. A lot of people think that because there's multiple locations, that it's automatically a franchise. And there are particular things that would make a business a franchise. So first, it's a business model where the franchisor licenses its brand, trademarks, and operating methods to a franchisee. So you as the owner would be the franchisee in exchange for a fee. The franchisor provides ongoing support and training while the franchisee operates the business under the franchisor guidance. These are some interesting statistics within the industry and why the franchising space is so successful. One is an $800 billion industry. There's well over 4,000 franchises out there with over 50 industries, and typically it's a 90% success rate. So if there's business owners out there, as you know, there has been this statistic of small businesses after 5 years, it's only 50% failure rate or 50% success rate. In the franchise industry, is a 90% success rate. Some of the key facts is the brand recognition, and what's most key about that would be the fact there's a proven business model. So these are businesses that has already gone through the mistakes, has a system in place, and now you're able to basically buy into that system. So this is what sets it apart and why they're successful. The things you want to look for in the brand are their reputation. You want to understand that the franchise agreement should be clear. Their financial stability is important. Um, their proven success records, and also the type of support and resources that this business is going to be providing you. This is very key because, again, this is what's going to set apart why someone would start up the business from scratch as opposed to go ahead and own in this franchise. So the support, training, things of that nature is incredibly important. It is also regulated by the FTC. So again, for you to be a franchise, you have to have a document which I'm going to touch on called the FDD, and all franchises are regulated by the FTC. So those are the main difference. That's how you would know whether a business is a franchise or not. So what is an FDD? The FDD is the franchise disclosure document. And it's a legal guide that explains all the important details you need to know before buying a franchise. So it's a huge document that every franchise have to renew. It is so important that you have to have this document legally for 14 business days before you can move forward. So that's how important it is. And this is why I always would recommend and advise that you speak with a franchise attorney specifically when you are looking into franchises. So it is important because it's going to provide you with all of the information you need to know about that particular business. So the costs, your obligations, your risks, all of that is going to be actually provided to you within that document and also within the process. So then that's supposed to help you avoid any type of mistakes before investing. So you do have ample opportunity to really research the business that you're thinking of, unless you decide to skip steps. And we're gonna talk about that as well. So the topic is about transferable skills. So quickly, it's skills that it's your ability to take your qualities and skills that you have and take it from one job or situation and apply it to another. The two types are soft skills and hard skills. The soft skill is going to be empathy, resilience, you have adaptability. Hard skills, leadership, financial acumen, project management, technical skills. So I put this together. We're going to call her Sarah. This is someone that I did meet with, but for this example is to show you how I would go from consultation to how I would get then funnel it down as far as to the businesses that I would end up showing her. So for Sarah, she studied health law. She worked as a journalist in television, and she has a strong corporate background. She possesses leadership skills, perfect for business ownership, and she prefers to manage a small team. Which all those things are very key to me when someone tells me that. And she values the franchise model that emphasizes education, support, and growth. So the things that's going to pop out to me as far as the transferable skills would be research and process analysis, her strong corporate background, the fact that she wants to manage a small team, wellness, education, and support. I'm sorry, she values education and support and data analytics. Yes. Let me change the camera because it's covering some of my material. So the industries that she's going to be well suited for is going to be B2B, healthcare and wellness, and education. And notice how I didn't jump to businesses right away. I went to the industries, and we'll touch on that as well. So just quickly, the B2B was pulling from her corporate background, that, her journalism, leadership skills, and the fact that she successfully managed small teams and build important relationships. That's making her basically align with the B2B franchises that are out there and education support. For health and wellness, she has a health law degree, so that could be valuable for the regulations and compliance to the healthcare sector. Her strong research skills enables her to stay informed about industry trends, helping her franchise remain competitive. She has the ability to manage small teams as well, and that does align very well with this type of industry and the collaborative nature. And last but not least, her education. She has a passion for education, so that's going to drive her interest in franchises that support growth and development. Communication skills, her communication skills developed through her journalism background are vital for engaging with students and staff. As a great leader, she can inspire her team of educators to deliver exceptional learning experiences, aligning perfectly with the focus on continuous improvement found in education franchises. So there's several professions that are really good for franchising. I'm just going to talk about a couple. The first would be business owners. There's some business owners out there. Business owners are great because it's a great way to diversify your portfolio. Also because of the leadership, financial management, customer relation, problem solving, and adaptability. People that are in the healthcare and wellness providers, they have strong communication, empathy, problem solving, management skills, regulatory knowledge, marketing experience, adaptability, and financial acumen. And educators, they have strong communication, leadership, organization, problem solving, and mentoring skills. Veterans make excellent franchise owners. In fact, 15% of franchises in the US are owned by a military veteran because of their attention to detail, situation awareness, and communication skills. Here's the top reasons. They're easy to train. They follow system and rules, which is extremely important in this industry. They have a bigger than self attitude, commitment and hard work, stress management, leadership, and result-oriented planners. So we're going to jump into the common pitfalls when selecting a franchise. So notice again, I want to jump back at when I went from Sarah, all of her transferable skills, and the first thing I did was go into the industry. A lot of times, because we don't know what we don't know, we only, when we think of franchises, we think of, one or two industries basically, food and gyms. That's what most people are gonna think about when they think about franchising. So it's important that you think about the industry that you're going to be more aligned with and besides the brand, because the one thing you don't want to do is pick a brand and say you want to own this brand just because you like their sandwich or something like that. So that's not the right reason to own a business and to own a franchise. So that is something that I do focus on, and where the transferable skills is going to come in handy. So you definitely don't want to skip through research. You want to be very honest about the financial requirements, so don't ignore that. Um, and you don't want to like skim through or overlook the franchise agreement as well. Again, you have a lot of things at your fingertips. It is for you to not follow any process to be able to. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to find a business fit if you're doing all these right steps. So making sure that you're asking not only questions, but ask a lot of questions, not only the right questions, but ask a lot of questions as well. There is a process. So if you're impatient, you're super analytical and you just want, to do this by tomorrow, it may not be the industry for you. Not to say that you're not able to go in and quickly buy a franchise, but typically you'll be shooting yourself in the foot if you do it that way. So you want, most franchises, they do have a process where some of them may have like an 8-step process, some of them may have a shorter process, a 4-step or 3-step. But you want to make sure that you're going through each of the process diligently. There's particular steps that you definitely don't want to skip. One is the validation stage. So this is where you're going to have the opportunity to speak to other franchise owners. Why would anybody skip that? I do not know, because you're hearing from the horse's mouth. So if you, for example, are coming in and you decide that you want to hold on to your job, maybe just for a year or two, and then transition into full-time ownership, then you should want to speak to a few people that mimics that as well. You want to speak to other owners that's doing the same thing. You also want to speak to other owners that may be full-time right away. And then that way, at least you have something to compare it to and see, well, does this make sense? Is it financially feasible? And what was the essential differences between them? And of course, don't ignore industry experts such as myself. So some of the questions that you want to ask, and you want to start with yourself, is just be honest with yourself. Am I actually ready to own a business or a franchise, period? Can I see myself in this business? And do I have the financial resources to invest? The questions that you want to ask the franchisor: what kind of training will I receive? How much ongoing support can I expect? Again, this is very important, because what sets you apart, not just from the competition in a franchise industry, but what sets you apart from, if it's a handyman service, from me just getting some tools and a couple of my friends and go ahead and starting a business. What is it that I'm getting here that I can start for myself? So you want to understand the type of support and training that they're going to be giving you. And also, of course, what is the total cost to get started? Last but not least, the franchisees is in your validation stage. You want to make sure that you're asking key questions. What has been your biggest challenge since opening the franchise? How supportive is the franchisor when you face difficulties? And would you invest in this franchise again if given the choice? I wouldn't that's like probably like one of the number one questions, because if all in all they'll do it again, that tells you a lot. I'm going to pause here to see if there's anybody that has any questions for me right now. I can't see the chat, so if there's any questions in the chat, Sarah, you can let me know. Or if there's anybody want to on mic real quick, they can do so.
There's one question in the chat, but I think we can wait to the end for that one.
Okay. I'm almost done. Okay, so some of the resources out there, you have Franchise Business Review, or FBR. that's gonna they do a lot of surveys on a lot of different franchises. So it's just a good place to start and look at. You have the IFA, International Franchise Association. They have a lot of different tools, etc. They do a lot of different expos throughout the year. And of course, you have Precision Franchise. I have a lot of blogs. I'm going to touch on the YouTube channel that I have as well, and just a ton of content and information on my socials about the different types of businesses that are out there. I do have a book. It is called Your Franchise Roadmap. It's going to take you from that discovery to decision. And if you insist on moving forward and doing this yourself, then I would absolutely say you might want to pick up this book because it goes into further details and everything that I mentioned in this presentation. It also gives you the opportunity to evaluate, let's say you're looking at maybe 2 or 3, then it's definitely a good practical book to have because you're able to properly evaluate them and write in the book, etc. And it is available on Amazon. These are some of the resources that are available on my website at precisionfranchise.com. The Franchise Fit form is a form that's very informative. You are able to actually rate the level of interest in various franchises, various industries that you may or may not have realized. So sometimes people will be surprised that they see vending or beauty, and they'll have a high interest. They'll say, well, I'll rate that an 8 or 10. So it's just a way for our conversation to be a little more streamlined, and it helps us both in the conversation. So this is something that I do ask if you do want to have a conversation with me, that you do go either on the website or this is a link for it directly where you can check it out and complete that. The Franchise Vibe. So this is my YouTube channel, and it was created off of the webinars that I've held throughout the years. So they're more bite-sized video, they're more focused, and it's taken a lot of different people from the industry. So I talk about franchises, the industry in a whole. We talk about different topics within the industry, and I highlight businesses that you don't normally see that are doing extremely well. So it's a great resource to be able to see live, like what's going on. And of course, the ask would be that you reach out to me if there is an interest. And of course, like and subscribe. I do highly recommend that you check out the YouTube channel. And if you are ready to have a conversation, again, the consultation is free. The work that I do, again, just think about it as when you're looking to buy a house and you have a real estate agent. You could look at 7 houses. If you need to come back, you don't pay that real estate agent. So think of it in that way. The services are free. This is just a way for you to avoid the rabbit hole, and you have guidance and making sure that you're focused. So if you are ready to have a conversation, you can go ahead and scan that QR code, or again, as I said, on my website, precisionfranchise.com, and I'll put it in the chat. You would be able to find these same resources and connect with me. Okay, and that is it. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Tamika. That presentation was it's very helpful. I mean, I think that there are obviously a lot of questions. I think a lot of people, we see these franchises every day, we see these brands, and there's a lot of mystery behind that process. I had a question though. I read an article once speaking about Subway. And, as we know, at one point, Subway was one of the largest franchise models in the country. They're probably still up there, but there was a big issue with regards to some of the franchisee owners feeling that Subway was giving out too many licenses in their territory. So the question is, when you're considering these models, do you have negotiation power to have a territory? How does that work?
As far as territory is concerned, where it's located?
Yeah, to kind of protect yourself from the franchisor, like opening up another one or allowing another franchisee to open up down a block from you on at a better intersection than you, but literally in the same neighborhood as you.
Right, understood. So that's actually a good point to bring up, and that is where your franchise disclosure document come in, and when you're speaking to them directly. All of that is supposed to be laid out. So that's not something that would have been hidden. Likely it would have been in the franchise disclosure document. There's particular items, I didn't get to go into that, but there are particular items where you would go into that item, which is basically a section in the FDD, and you'll be able to see see where the territory rules and things of that nature is. And when during the process, when you're speaking with them, these are the types of questions that you want to ask and be clear. And that's why you also want to make sure that you do have a franchise attorney, which I do align you. So I do align you with a franchise attorney. Obviously, you do not have to go with the person, but these are just people that I'm connected with that I do provide. The franchise attorney, someone in funding as well. So that's where this type of stuff is important, where your due diligence will come in.
So you beat me to the second question, which was legal, like with regards to, you can give the consultation, but obviously there's a lot of legal questions that I think people would have. And, do you have any idea on what type of cost these franchise attorneys charge to help you, I don't know,
Mhm.
go over your contract, um, things of that nature?
It varies. The last I saw, I mean, it could be anywhere from. It's not anything vastly different from sitting with an attorney on other matters. I know that I've seen it maybe 1,500, 2,000. It does vary, depend on the attorney. I know that when I do introduce you, you do get at least a free consultation, which is why I always, when I do introduce, I wait until a little bit like the tail end, unless you really want to speak to them now, because I think it'll be better. You get a better bang if you wait until you kind of have more of an idea. If you're looking at three businesses and you narrowed it down to, well, it's either this one or this one, then that's probably when you should speak with the attorney, because at least that way you get to, at least maximize on the consultation, or if you think you've made your decision. So I would go with the consultation first. I provide a resource that helps you read the FDD, so it helps you pull out particular questions to kind of prepare you for because you don't know what you don't know, right? So to know what to ask, and it just starts to make sense once you're in the process, and then you have that conversation with the attorney.
Great, great. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess the more you know going into that consultation with the attorney reduces the amount of billable hours. you, you're
Yeah,
gonna
they all work differently. It's not my wheelhouse. They all work differently. But what I do know is, I mean, this is a large investment. So I would say, like, when you're buying a house, you have an attorney, right? So it's like if you're gonna buy this, you're gonna invest this type of money. Like, why not, have an attorney, make sure to look over. It's a 200-page document.
Well, thank you so
I did
much.
have a question.
Obviously, to the Black Adult Society community,
I did have a
considering,
question. Can you hear
yeah,
me?
Jeff, you have a question?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
So this is great information, Tamika. Obviously, we're going to follow up with some things that we do as well on business credit. But you mentioned financing. So typically, I'm assuming that different franchises have a different amount of down payment that you need to put down and things of that nature. Interest rates. Does the franchise itself fund you? Could you give me some insight, just out of curiosity, what that financing structure? I'm sure it varies from franchise to franchise, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
just an idea of what a person might be looking at, and maybe just pick a franchise and how much it might cost to start maybe a Subway. How would that financing work?
So you have different ways to fund the franchise. The same way you would fund any other business, right? You have the SBA loans, you have ROBS, which a lot of people are not that familiar with, but it's rollover for business startups, where you can utilize your retirement funds. You have, and some of the franchises do also have where they may have either, I would call it like a department where they do, offer financing and things of that nature. Some of them do. So honestly, you can't just I can't just like pick out like which
Sure.
franchises do that. Like it varies. So it's like the best thing to do, honestly, is again, once you're looking, if anything you pull from this is don't think about the brand. Because again, see, the two things that popped up was So in my inventory, and not that I don't have very large brands like that because we do, it's those are like what we would call like empire brands. Like they have thousands and thousands of franchises. So they're already at their peaks. And I don't think I had touched on that question you asked also, Terrence, about franchises growing too fast and things of that nature. A classic example of that would have been like a Quiznos. So these are all the things that you want to pay attention to, and you're able to get that type of information as well. Um, but you can look at, for example, now I'll use another food example. You might look at it and be like, well, I want a McDonald's, and it's like, okay, so do you really want a McDonald's or do you want food? Do you want, you know what I mean? Does it have to be a McDonald's? Because I can show you 10 brands that's going to be equivalent of what it's going to take for you to own a McDonald's. You know what I mean? And they're making crazy money. So those are the things that you want to think about. And do you even want to be in that industry? Maybe it's home services that you need to be in. So that's kind of what I definitely want to push. But if you, I want to make sure I answer your question.
No. You're 100% right. I know it definitely varies. You mentioned
But
SBA loans, and some franchises have to be fall under that SBA guideline that SBA will fund a franchise like that as well.
right, right, yeah. And there's a lot of franchises that are actually on the list as well, on the SBA list.
Yeah.
So that's also something to know. But I hope I answered your question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's a very question. Some obviously, like you said, some franchises cost some a little bit more, some a little bit
Yes.
less, right?
So if you're thinking about food, if you're thinking about restaurants and things of that nature, that's always going to be on your tail, that you're on the higher end,
Yeah.
because you have equipment, you have employees, you have inventory. So that's something that you would have to understand and consider. It also is something that's going to take up your time as well.
Sure.
So think about your lifestyle and what you're doing, and is that the fit for that? Or is it more so of a business where you have less employees and it's not a brick and mortar, and it's more of a service brand, or it's in real estate, or it's a B2B. So those are the things that you really want to figure out first. Or else you're
Sure.
just going to end up falling into a rabbit hole, and you do a search, and this happens a lot. You do a search and a bunch of stuff comes up. You got a bunch of stuff on your feed, and you start filling out some things to get information, or that you don't check off the right boxes, and sometimes you don't even hear anything back. Why? Because you didn't check off the right boxes. Because you're saying like, oh, I want to, own this. I don't know. I'll use food again. Own this, food brand, and it's like, oh, but I have $30,000. They're not even going to speak to you. Like they're not going to learn. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's where you wanna understand and start.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
Great, great, great. So again, Tamika, thank you so much. And I think she's going to also include in the chat, all of her, connection information. As she mentioned, she has a great book out there, for those of you who want to, take some time and, possibly learn some of these steps more so, via her book. Obviously, her consultations, as she mentions, are free. She is well versed in this area. The idea of starting a business can be very stressful, very intimidating. And when you think about opening up a franchise, that adds a whole nother layer of complexity. And you want to make sure that you're aligning yourself, with someone, who is an industry expert who can offer you, some guidance. And as excited as I was for Tamika's presentation today, thank you again, Tamika. The next crew up, Creditverse, because we're thinking about starting a business, right? Well, we need money, right? Savings, we all have savings, but, this next presentation is going to talk to you about, well, how do you leverage, your brand? How do you leverage your business? How do you leverage your EIN? How do you access business credit? So this next presentation, I'm very excited for. This presentation is going to be put on by Creditverse, and I'm going to allow one of the senior partners, Jeff, to start the presentation off, and give him the floor, and then take it from there. All right, Jeff.
Fantastic. Thank you. You can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. So great morning. Thanks everybody on a Saturday. And the replay is even going to be better for those that might have missed it. And again, thank you, Tamika, for some great information on franchising. It's definitely something that you were going to say something, Terrence?
Yeah, Jeff, put your volume up a little bit. Maybe just in case. I think on mine it's a little low, but I just want to
Okay.
make sure.
Let me move up a little bit. I've got
Oh, yeah, much better. Thank you.
that better? Okay, cool. Fantastic. Don't want anybody to miss anything. So, real quick, and again, thank you, Tamika. My name is Jeff Broom. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Credit Verse. That is a sister company to our other partner, which is Credit Concepts. Credit Concepts is a financial services firm, been in existence for over 15 years, started in the all important credit space. Helping individuals with their individual credit profiles. And obviously, it's now moved into taxes. It's moved into, boosting these credit profiles, because we do understand that access to capital is extremely important. We understand you have to fund your dreams and your goals in life, whether it be the car, the house. And sometimes many of us have not had the information that's necessary, because we do also, we're in the schools, we're DOE vendors in 2 different states. And we understood that, realizing that credit was a challenge for a lot of adults, but it didn't start there. It really starts at a younger age, not really understanding these things, not necessarily having the parents to really help us understand how. So now when you go out and you graduate and you get out into the real world, because you were not educated, you get those credit cards, you make those mistakes, and it pulls you out of the capitalistic society. So you're unable to build that generational wealth, because you might have made a mistake that could have been avoided. And now you've got thousands of dollars in debt, you've got damaged credit, and all of a sudden, that's not the way to get out of the gate in life. You want to get off to a fast start. So we're very excited about what we do over here at Credit Concepts. We're MBE certified, we're BOCES certified. When it comes down to it, we're DOE vendors. And now what we've done very shortly, or very quickly, is that we moved our business, because we do understand with technology that education is outdated. So Creditverse is a reiteration of what we've done with Credit Concepts, that now we teach different disciplines in simulations with virtual reality and AI. And we understand that because corporate America has gotten away from individuals sitting in a lecture hall. They do things by simulations. Your Fortune 500 companies, this is how they train pilots. This is how they train surgeons, because they understand the retention rate is so much higher, because we learn by doing. So that kind of technology has not reached the schools. It has not reached at home. So that's what we do basically at Credit Concepts. As I said, we are a meta education solution partner. We work with them consistently. And what we've been able to do is develop, as software developers, and trademark the first financial literacy program, all 12 modules, using virtual reality, immersive simulations, in addition to AI. Because most people, you don't want to learn after you make the mistake. Most people learn by the consequences of the mistake. But with the simulations, you can do that in a practice form, so that when you are a pilot and it's time to fly the plane, you can do so, because you've had that simulation over and over and over again. So we're very excited about the technology. And then obviously we've expanded it now that we do carpentry, welding, nursing, anything that's going to be hands-on. We're going to do it through a simulation. So now you can say, listen, I've logged so many hours, and when it comes time to take that test, you are very much prepared. And it's not learning by consequence. It's muscle memory. So extremely excited about that. But, when Terrence reached out to us and talked about knowing what we do, because we're in the financial services area, one thing that we do, and we're very adamant and important about, is educating people on business credit. We have so many individuals that want entrepreneurs, and I'm going to introduce my partner. He's going to bring up a screen share. But so many entrepreneurs, we are leaving a lot of opportunity on the table, because we know we have to protect that social security number. And we do that, right? When we learn what it's all about, and we're adamant about that, because I always say, you're going to get asked your social security number probably every 6 months for the rest of your life. And your SAT score maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times. So really, what's more important? But there's another number that's important, or another 9 digits, which is the tax ID and the EIN number. See, the corporate American companies that are out there, they don't necessarily build the social. They build that tax ID number, because at the end of the day, that's what is sold when it comes down to it. So we're going to show you how to leverage that, because we honestly believe that the individuals that have 2 profiles, 2 credit profiles to leverage, put themselves in a much better opportunity when it comes down to business than those that have only one credit profile. So we're going to show you how to swing the bat with both hands, right? Meaning with your EIN and your social. We're going to show you how to compete at a much higher level, like the corporate American companies do. So I'm going to defer, you see there, to my partner. He is the CEO of Creditverse, as well as Credit Concepts. We have a brick and mortar location in the Bronx and one at 55 Water Street. So he's going to talk about business credit 101 and how do we not just use our tax ID to get, to write off things on our taxes, but how do you use that number, which is 10 times more powerful than a social security number because of the earning potential of the EIN and the tax ID. So this is the CEO of Creditverse and Credit Concepts, Mr. Quincy Luzinares. So Quincy, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. As my partner said, my name is Quincy Luzinares. I am the CEO of Credit Concepts and Creditverse. And we have been in business a little over 15 years. We're pushing on our 18th year. So we're super excited to continue to bring this type of information, especially to our community, because 95% of business owners don't build out their business credit profiles. So we get tons of individuals that are looking to get access to capital. They may have businesses, but don't know how to make sure that their business is in position to get capital. The assumption that they may have a business credit card that they use their personal to secure means that they're building business credit, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. So I'm going to just lay out some key components that give you some insight on business credit 101 and how data is changing on the way that companies finance businesses. So everything is built on data, especially when it comes to business profiles. Business credit is something that is not an easy process. Lenders and underwriters do make sure that you are a legitimate company. And in doing so, they're going to do their due diligence and do their background checks and make sure that the basic information for your business is secure. Because you can have a business just having your EIN number and your registration. It doesn't mean that you're actively in business because you have business on paper. So there's a database of information that has to be secured when doing that and building out your business credit profile. Having and generating a business credit score isn't the end all be all. There's a complete system and process behind that. And it's where your data is being stored. And this is the blueprint of how you start that. So first off, the holy grail of the business profile is built off of your Dun & Bradstreet number. It kind of gives you the jump start to start building on top of it. Just how you have your personal credit bureaus, which are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. There's a separate bureaus and separate data system that houses their business data, and it all starts with the Dun & Bradstreet number. Once you get that DUNS number, then you can start to expand on that by making sure that you're registered with the other business bureau systems. Cortera is one of the other big ones. Your business credit score is going to range from 100, from 0 to 100. So that's the range that you're going to be at. And having a 70 PAYDEX score is like having a 750 personal credit score. Once you get your business with registered, not with just one, because the more data systems that you're registered with, the higher the chance that you're going to be able to secure capital. So you want to make sure you have your DUNS number. You want to make sure that you're registered with Cortera. You want to make sure that you're registered with Experian and Equifax Business. You also want to make sure that your business is not in the check system, because that's where a lot of the underwriters are immediately going to check. And the check system, if you have any outstanding overdrafts for any accounts that you may have closed, they're going to find that. And those are going to be red flags. So you want to make sure that you check all of these things and that you're set up with all of these profiles before you start going out there trying to acquire any type of capital. Obviously, there's private firms that have back-end systems that you also want to make sure you're registered with. But as long as you're set up with these major ones, then you're gonna be on track. Uh, the impact on your business as far as how its data being calculated is going to factor into the most important thing, which is your interest rates. And that's going to determine what your risk level is. The higher the risk, the higher the interest, the lower the risk, the lower your interest. And that's where you want to be. And for business credit, your risk is based off of data. The more that they see, the more that you have. Just having a business is not it. You need your business. You need to make sure you have your bank account. You need to make sure you have what's called an online presence, which is having a website, having a business address, making sure some things as a business email, not a Gmail, not your business at gmail.com. You know, you want a registered number. There's so many things that even if you don't have a brick and mortar location, you can have what's called virtual addresses that will make it look like you're a Fortune 500 company. You can look like you're at Wall Street. You can look like you have this big corporate location because you can have it virtually to where you can hold meetings, you can get your mail, you can have a receptionist. All of these things will make you look the par as you're starting to go after some capital, you know, and these are the things that are going to make sure your approvals are strong and that you minimize, you know, denials. Once you start and getting your foundation secure, then you want to make sure that you start getting what's called your early stage approvals, which is your trade lines. Because business is ran on data, you have to show data. And the only way to build data on the business side is to do it with approvals. And you can't get approvals and start having trade lines under the business without actual usage. So the difference it's like having on the personal side, when you get approved for a credit card, no matter if you use that credit card or not, it's going to show up on your personal credit report. It's going to show up as a trade line. It's going to show that you have a certain amount of outstanding, a zero balance with the credit limit. And even if you don't use that credit card, it's going to report on-time payment data, even with a zero balance. And that's how the personal credit system is ran. But on the business credit side, it doesn't work like that. If you get an approval, let's say it's an early stage approval, and we say early stage because even if you have zero traction under your business, there are companies that are going to give you guaranteed approvals to start the engine. And those are going to be companies like Quill, Uline, Granger, gas cards from BP. Even with no data history, just with the proper setup and a proper registration, you're going to get those approvals. That's going to range anywhere from 3 to 5,000. But having that approval is one thing. Your usage is another, because unlike the personal, if you don't use those approvals, it's not going to generate the data that's going to generate the score. You can sit with those approvals for months and never use them. And on your business credit profile, it won't even exist. So the key to business credit is actual usage. And they're not looking for you to spend a lot of money. They're just looking for consistency. And that consistency typically ranges on 90 days. And that means if you get that approval from Uline or Quill or Granger for $300 or $500, your next step is to go to Uline, Quill, and Granger and use that approval. I don't care if you buy toilet paper for the house. As long as you're actively using that trade line, it's going to report that on-time payment data. And once you use those accounts for a minimum of that 90 days, and please remember that that 90 days is the milestone, because it will take that 90 days of consistent data to start generating the business credit score. And that's your overall goal. All right. Because lenders, they're going to want to see a score. You know, having and starting your business credit profile without actually generating your business credit score defeats the purpose. So the goal is to make sure that you're using and generating your small trade lines. And again, they're not going to be the best because you haven't proven yourself. You know, your business is just starting out. That's just like, you know, you building credit for the first time on the personal side, and you're going to try to go out and get a house or a car. They're not going to give you the approval because you don't have that data. So that's what the business early stage trade lines are going to do. It's going to give you that data, take what you can get, no matter how, non-impressive those approvals are. it's a chess move. You're going to position your profile, get the score, so that way, once you leverage that score, you can now look good to lenders and banks, and then they will start giving you those credit card approvals, those small lines of credit. And keep in mind, guys, this is even if you're not generating any capital for your business, because a lot of concerns for business owners are, I'm just starting out, I don't have customers yet, or I don't have clients. I don't really, I'm not really making money for my business yet. How do I still get access to capital? This is the way to do it. You're not going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, don't fall to a lot of the clickbait that you may see on the internet, and, these things that are promising you how you can get access to this large amount of capital just starting out. A lot of that is unrealistic. If you want to strategically do this the right way, this is the process, and this is how you start, because this is what these lenders are going to be looking for. Banks are going to be focused on your score. They're going to understand what are those red flags on what you have and not have for that business. And these are the things that are going to help you do that. Business credit equals opportunity and performance. Once you align your business with your credit scoring, then you're going to start seeing how things start to open up for you. The goal is to start positioning yourself to get access to capital, so that way you can now start generating, because once you start getting that cash flow and that working capital through your business, because now with that score, you want to start having to piggyback off of it. Obviously, self-preservation is key. You want to make sure that your personal credit score, when you start going into the business lending world, is at least fair or good. And that's between 640 and above. Because as the owner, even though the goal is to separate the two, you don't mix business and personal. That's an old rule that we all should know. So that means that don't let them force you to putting your social security number down when it comes to applying for capital. They're going to try to do that. They're going to force you to put your social security down. But if you know that you started to build your business credit, that you have a business credit score, that you've done the fundamentals and making sure that your business is registered properly, you tell them, no, we're not using my personal, we're using my business only, because they're going to try to trick you. They're going to say, well, unfortunately, we can't do that. You say, no, run it anyway. Here's my 9-digit number. I want you to run my business, not my personal. Then you're going to find that they are seeing that you're savvy enough, and then they will take that business EIN number to pursue, that lending. But always remember that sometimes if you allow them to peek at your personal score as the owner, it can sometimes fast track some of your approvals. Now, understanding scoring is key, because that knowledge and what your score represents is very important. And that Paydex is the #1 scoring model. You have Dun & Brad, Experian commercial, and Equifax commercial. Those are typically the big three on the business side. And that Paydex, again, ranges from 1 to 100, but having that 70 or 80 is where you want to be. And even if you get those small approvals that I spoke about earlier and generate that data for that 90 days, you will immediately be at that 70 score range within that 90 days to start positioning your business. Credit Score Pro is used by a lot of the industries, and also making sure when it comes time to start your financing. Obviously, if you're a business owner and you're building a business credit profile and you have a car, why not take advantage, since you're going to be paying a car note anyway, put that car under the business. Start seeing how you can fast track and grow that business credit profile with some of the things that you're going to be doing anyway. And having that business credit score with Credit Score Pro will allow you to start making those leasing and auto finances. And then Business ID under the Equifax umbrella helps you identify businesses on the compliance side to start going after those loans and lines of credit. Now, the competitive advantage for those that have business credit and those that don't is night and day. When you have business credit, then you can start going after large amount of capital, sometimes without cash flow. It's not a guarantee, but we funded a lot of businesses just off of a strong business profile using a method called stacking. Because you may not be able to get access to this $250,000 amount off of one lender. However, without cash flow, without business bank statements, there are still some small amounts that you can get that you can double, triple, and quadruple. Meaning, if a lender gives you a $15,000 or $20,000 approval on your business because you've done the bare minimum. Because remember, 95% of business owners don't have a profile in itself. So then you take the business owners that have a profile and that have a score, it puts you kind of in a small elite pool that because you have those small things, they'll start taking risks and chances with you. But if you need to get to a large amount of capital, then you can start applying for these separate approvals till you get to a large number. So when you have that business credit profile intact, when you receive your approvals and you get that working capital and you have those interest rates that are very par with payment terms that are very reasonable, these are the things that you can do compared to businesses that don't have their business credit intact, that have to rely on their personal credit score. Some of them have to rely on their bank statements and cash flow to get what's called hard money, MCA loans. And those are typical financing opportunities that, lenders will give you. Even if you're making a very little amount of money, you can get access to money, but is it the type of money that you want when they talk about these predatory, interest rates that make it very difficult and aggressive to pay back? So you definitely want to be, in this, range of having the business credit when you start, applying for that capital. So the program and how the phases work. So when you decide to sign up, or if you choose to, to say, you know what, I want to start building up my business credit, I want to, start the process. What does that look like? And it's done in phases. And that first phase is the compliance check. We kind of look at where your business are, give you a small checklist to say, okay, these are the things that we need to make sure we have in position before we even start the process. But once we complete that compliance checklist, which is the basic necessities that we spoke about, website, email address, the proper, business profile setup. Those are all of the things that lenders are going to be looking for. Social media presence. Then we start getting you those early stage trade lines that we spoke about. Once we do that, you start the usage, which is the development of the profile. We apply some technology to help make sure that, the process starts moving smoothly. And then you start building that reputation online. And then what could we do to start bringing in some type of revenue based off of that first phase of approvals? The second phase, now that we started generating the score, now you're going to start attracting offers. You're going to start having, multiple lenders on different sides. They're going to be sending you a lot of offers once you start generating that score. Once you start seeing that there's actual payment history and data, you're going to be surprised how quick the lenders start, offering you, very small amounts, but, credit card approvals, lines of credit. And when you start having business credit, those credit card approvals don't come small. You can get out the gate $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 limits on credit cards for your business once you start having these things intact. And then obviously the final phase in is the optimized scoring, is to make sure that, you're at that 70 plus range, which are going to be low risk to lenders. And obviously, the monitoring systems in place to make sure that, you maintain the business credit that you have achieved with us. So this is kind of that overview of business credit. And it was a kind of a lot to take in. We will share this presentation after the call for all those that are interested. But if I can say, anyone that has a EIN number or that is looking to start a business, if you're not actively trying to build the right way your business credit profile, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not going to be in the position that you want to be. You're going to have to leverage your personal. And when you start doing that, any mistake that you make, once you start leveraging your personal, is going to fall back on you. Business is something that you want to completely separate. If you're bitten, 80% of businesses don't make it past their second and third year. So when you know that, you don't want to be personally liable for any lending or any funding that you get under the business. Make sure you do this, make sure you do it the right way, and then sky's the limit when it's done. So I refer back to my partner, Jeff. You're on mute, Jeff.
Let me do that. Thank you so much. Just to wrap it up, great information. And, just keep in mind, guys, your personal credit report, the algorithm, it was never meant to sustain a business. Your personal credit report, maybe 1 or 2 credit cards, a car loan, and a mortgage, right? Because we talked about when business credit, you're not dinged with a number of inquiries. They understand you're going to be looking for money when you have a business. There's going to be inquiries all the time. When you do that on a personal side, your credit score drops. They understand that when you're running a business and you have inventory, you're going to be maxing out credit cards because you might be buying lines of credit. You're going to be doing things. When you max out your credit cards or your quote unquote lines of credit under your personal account, your score drops. So your personal credit report was never meant for the rigors of running a business. That's why major companies have CFOs to build out the business credit profile. So just keep in mind, and Tamika can understand this, there's also the SBFE and the SBSS. These are scoring models that report to the SBA, because when you get turned down, think about the idea of this, and then we'll wrap this up. I'm a business person. I want a business loan. But when they pull your business credit, you have none. You know what that's called? That's really called being financially illiterate. We talk all the time about financial literacy, but I want to get a business loan, but I have no business credit. That doesn't make sense. So therefore, you're defaulting and using your personal credit, and you can do that. But when you max out the credit card, you're also putting your family in jeopardy. That's the next trip. That's the next house that you want to buy. That's everything you want to do on the personal side is impacted because you did not build out that business credit profile. So there's really no excuse. As he said, businesses make more money. They pay the individual. That's why business approvals are much higher, because they typically will always make more money than the Social Security number. So we encourage everybody there, and we put together a funding platform as well, because we do understand that. So we have about 30 different lenders, and my partner used the word that sometimes we need multiple approvals. Someone might come and they say, listen, I need $50,000. I was talking to Tamika and I need $100,000. Well, you might not get $100,000 from one institution, but the bottom line is, hey, you know what? 4 quarters still equal $1. One bank might not give you $1, but you might get a couple of institutions to give you 4 quarters. It still equals $1. So therefore, we're very understanding of how to put this together for individuals to get you multiple approvals with 30 different lenders and banks. So you're talking to people that have built out some LLCs, have gotten people a ton of money. And yes, we do it. This needs to be done intentionally. Typically, people build out credit when they get out of school and they hope it's done the right way. You need to be very intentional when it comes down to getting money. And I encourage everybody, he said, you will lose to the person that does have business credit if you don't. And some people have been in business for 3 to 5 years. So you no longer can say, I didn't know. And banks are looking at both the blend between your personal and your business. And if you want a business loan, I need to see your capability of paying it back. So I think we're done on that note. We can help individuals from both sides of the equation. If you're looking to get access to capital, we would love an opportunity to entertain that. And if you have an LLC, and you want, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and more under your business, separate from what your family's going to need, then that's the way we need to start thinking about business credit compared to personal credit. 2 very important 9-digit numbers that the government has given to us basically for free. You need to learn how to build it out and take advantage. So, Terrence, I think we're done on our behalf. Not much more to say. It's a pretty much common sense conversation. Either you have it or you don't. And we talk about financial literacy. Well, we got to take it to another level if we want to compete.
Well, Jeff, that was great, but we're not going to let you get away so fast. We got some questions. Quincy, two points. First, with regards to the paydex, you mentioned that initial process to get that score started is pretty simple. You get certain things you got to have in place. I guess when you start that process, if I understand what you were saying, your score kind of starts, I guess moderately high, if that's the right word. What increases that paydex score? What has the biggest impact? Obviously, you want to make sure you're paying your business credit on time. Understand that. But what's the other driving factor to get that paydex score higher for a business owner?
So it typically mirrors the personal side. The more positive accounts you have, the more quote unquote trade lines you have, the longer your payment data in history is, the stronger that credit report is. So when you have that minimum of 3 to 5 trade lines on your business credit profile that has been used a minimum of 3 to 4 times, then that's when you immediately jump into that range of 70, 72, 75 score range, which again is equivalent to a 700 personal score. And to continue to grow that is just to continue to do what got you to that 70. Make your, as you said, make those payments on time. Start qualifying and applying for more trade lines, because now that you have that credit score, that business score, it's going to start being easier to get more approvals. You just got to strategically know that, okay, I need to move into what we call phase 2 type of approvals. Phase 1 is the automatic ones that you'll get no matter what you do, as long as you have the proper setup. Phase 2 approvals is now that you generated a score, now you can start going after that Chase, business card, that Delta business card, that, Capital One Freedom business card. All of these things under the business credit umbrella is what you can start using your credit score to do, to start making it stronger and start enhancing those approvals.
Right. And that phase 2 that you're talking about, I guess, relates back to your business builder program that you kind of gave an overview on. That's my assumption. And I do have a question there, because you did lay out how you guys have this business builder program, and there's 3 phases to it. Give some of the listeners an idea of the cost to enroll in that program. How does that look?
So cost wise, because it's not something that's done very quickly, business credit is a 6-month process. So that's the realistic time frame you want to give yourself. You want to be able to make sure that after a business credit profile is successfully built out correctly, this is something that your business can carry on and take in for the rest of the life of the business. So there's a lot of registration fees that come into building out a profile. All of those sites that I showed you to register your business with, some of them do come with fees. Some of them do come with reporting fees. So you're going to be looking at an average of between 1,500 to 1,900 in order to get a successful business credit profile that will come with all of the registration fees covered. It will come with between 5 to 7 guaranteed approvals on both the phase 1, 2, and 3 side, because every phases generate different type of approvals. And it's going to make sure that your system is set up where you'll be able to monitor and track the progress of your business credit growth. And of course, that personal consultant for the team. So that way you're making sure that you're staying on the right track. You can be advised on proper things that you're doing. So that's the typical pricing range. It can range anywhere depending on when we do your business credit assessment and see how far you may have got and what things you may have done. You could be looking at a $1,500 to a $1,900 price range. That's all inclusive of everything that you're going to need to have a business credit profile fully established at the end of that 6 months, as long as you do your part.
Understood. Those were the two main questions I had. And that business. So, and the contact. What's the process to start? I'm going to kind of close on this note, but for those who are interested in contacting you guys and exploring this business builder program and working with you guys, how does that start? Do they need to come with their EIN already in place? Or is that something else that you guys would help with? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can reach us, Credit Concepts. You can go to our website. Our contact information is there. Again, 20, almost, 17, 18 years in business. But for those that don't have even if it's conceptual, even if you're thinking of starting and get into this business world, these are the things that we can do simultaneously. Starting and creating your business, which is labeled as entity formation, deciding on what that business credit or what that business idea is, then taking that idea to inception of starting the actual business on paper, because as long as we can get that EIN, register that EIN with the state that you live in, and then open up your business bank account, those 3 steps, you're now officially in business. And then immediately we can start building the business out simultaneously. So building your business credit doesn't mean you have to have your business established already. You could have established that business on Friday and on Saturday start building out the business credit profile. As long as the registration and the formation has been complete, which again is grabbing the EIN and then registering that business, getting your articles of incorporation, your certificate of certification, your filing receipt, and then taking those documents and opening up your business bank account, then you're in business and we can start building out the business credit profile. For those that don't have a business, for those that do, then this is just about grabbing that business data, doing the assessment, getting that EIN, seeing where you are as a business, and then kind of gauging based off of where you are on where we need to be and where's our starting point with the business credit build out.
Great. Thank you. And any final words, Jeff?
Yeah, by all means. And certainly when you call in, definitely mention the Black Adult Society so we can, find out where you got the great information from, as we're partners in making this thing happen. So, we want to know where you came from, how you found out about us. And again, if you have challenges with your personal credit, we love to talk to you. If it's taxes, we'd like to talk to you. And obviously, we just talked about business. The word financial literacy is thrown around so often. But yeah, just having a 720 credit score, there's levels to financial literacy. There's Warren Buffett financial literacy. There's Mark Cuban financial literacy. It's a class you never graduate from. So when it comes down to your EIN and your business credit, if someone said, what is your business credit scores? You might know you're a 720, but when it comes down to you as a business owner, what are your scores? You don't want to say, I don't know, right? So that in that vein, that's being a little bit illiterate. So we can definitely help with that. And we need to have that competitive advantage to be really swinging the bat with both arms, meaning your personal credit and your business credit. But you have to be intentional about it. It's not haphazard. You don't want to do it by luck, like most of us did with our personal credit. We just applied for things, not being intentional, hoping that we get approved. So you shouldn't hope you get approved. You should reverse engineer it and know what needs to get approved and build toward that, so you're truly not getting denied as we move forward. So by all means, reach out to us, Black Adult Society. We thank you, Terrence, for the opportunity to partner with you, or at least talk to your audience about this. We'll look forward to the replay. And, let's swing the bat with both hands on the personal and the business side in reference to access to capital and credit. And certainly if you start looking for funding, we would love to see if we can help you, anyone, in reference to that as well. So thank you.
And guys, I put in the chat, there's a link if you could schedule a free consultation. You could book an appointment with myself, with Jeff, with any of our staff members to talk more in depth about your situation. So in the chat, there is a link to book the appointment, and that's how we recommend to make sure that, we get on the same page for your consultation.
Great. Tamika, do you want to have any last words?
Sorry. No, just that it was great meeting everybody, and thank you for inviting me to also be a part of this.
Great. So there you have it, folks. The Black Adult Society's Entrepreneurism and Small Business Growth Workshop, Episode 1. These workshops will happen every first Saturday of the month. Next month, for the month of March, we're really excited. It's all about AI for you small businesses out there, for your entrepreneurs. We're going to have 2 consultants who are actually going to give presentations. One is going to give a presentation on how to use AI to help you with your books. Make sure those books are straight, your expenses and things of that nature. She's going to teach you and show you some applications you could use. Then there's a second presentation done by an AI consultant to talk about AI agents. And if you're not sure what an AI agent is, think of it as an assistant. These are AI applications that can help you do or help do some of the routine things that you're doing yourself where you can use AI technology. And then lastly, we're going to have a third AI consultant who's going to speak about avatars, right? The process of creating an avatar that could be used for business or for personal. We see them every day. She's going to go over how that works. So this is just an idea of some of the workshops we're going to have, and this will again happen every month. I encourage you to spread the word about the organization itself, the Black Adult Society. It's a free organization to join. These workshops are free. These workshops fall in line with one of our core concepts, our core pillars, which is wealth. We stand on 4 pillars of content and engagement and programming, and that's health, wealth, legacy, and community. And these workshops fall in line, with our wealth focus. So thanks again. Thanks for coming out, and check us out next month. Enjoy.
Bye.